to Chip in the third person. How's it going? Hey everybody, it's the Chippa. Welcome back to Chip in the third person. Happy Monday. May the 4th be with you, as it were. It's Star Wars Day. Star Wars Day during a pandemic. The discourse surrounding Star Wars is awful because you were all awful. That's the royal you, not you specifically. Why can't we just have things that we either like or we don't like? Huh? Why does it have to be more than that? As you can hear, it's beautiful outside. I'm using my AC for the first time. This is the third 65 degree plus day in a row here in the beautiful northern suburbs of Boston, Massachusetts, guy. And it's just been wonderful. I got a lot of work done on the dock this weekend. Me and my brother, Bob, put in a dock at my house that I built myself out of reclaimed wood from a deck that my grandfather had built for his best friend who lived across the street. His best friend's daughter owns that house now, and she had the pool taken down. Oh God, it was a 35, 40-year-old pool. And was, trying to open her yard and get the deck taken down. And I went over there over the course of a couple days, and tore it down and kept the wood and turned it into a dock. So it's really damn cool. I also have a floating dock with a kayak launch off of it. It's pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie about that. But when I built it, I put it in during the lowest time, drought, dry, not a lot of rain. The pond was low, and I tried to guess about how high the water would go. And unfortunately, in the spring and the fall, the last couple of years, the dock ended up completely out of water. Well, wood floats like witches, which turned me into a newt. Anyway, so the water would come above the dock and would actually rip it up out of the floor of the mucky water of the pond, and then the poles would reset, and it just became an absolute mess. So I went down there with waders on, and cobbled around through the muck, and lifted the thing up above the water line right now, which is about as high as it gets under normal conditions, unless we have a hurricane or, something crazy like that. But I got most of it up all by myself. Got to do the end, but that's going to require a little bit more ingenuity because there's sections out that way that go over my head, and I don't want to have that mistake happen again. There's someone standing on the side of the road dressed up in Star Wars cosplay, waving and smiling at people next to a Dodge Avenger or a Dodge Charger. It was a stormtrooper. If I wasn't on my way to work, I would go back and take a picture of that. That was wild. Anyway, yeah. So, May the 4th. Back to that. So, because the discourse surrounding Star Wars is so terrible, and none of us are immune to that. We've all, at some point or another, gone hard and heavy on awfulness about Star Wars, particularly the prequel trilogy, but for some reason this new trilogy gets mega hate too, and not for some reason, there's some negatives, but instead of focusing on the negatives, they'll probably come up in my talk here. I wanted to go through the main Star Wars film releases and say something positive and upbeat about every single one of them. And I'm going to start, I'm going to go in not release order, but in episodic order, just for fun. So here we go. So, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. A positive, there's many positive things that can be said about this movie, actually, but let me take you back. We cannot erase the fact that no matter how we ended up feeling about the movie and how the discourse went through the years, that the time leading up, the production leading up to Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was some of the best times to be the fan of something ever. It was a community all gathered around the anticipation and hope for something new in the Star Wars universe. And that's a lot of years past the last time we had something new in the Star Wars universe. So, or at least as a film. There are plenty of video games and other stuff like that. That time period is kind of what bred this nothing can be as good as I ever expected or wanted to be, crazy offshoot canon and all this other stuff. And again, if you dislike something, go for it. That's your right. but I shouldn't be less good at watching films or enjoying things because I don't dislike it to the same amount as you. So there we go. So that discourse, that time leading up to Phantom Menace was some of the best times. There was never a better time to be a Star Wars fan as there was leading up to The Force Awakens, quite frankly. At least in my lifetime. I can imagine the anticipation for The Empire Strikes Back was pretty goddamn huge. But we also didn't get the same sort of background and everything else. So, the lead up to The Phantom Menace, what are some other good things? The look of it. I know that a lot of people crap on the prequel trilogy. I give it kind of has this like fanciful like look back. If they had been made in order and they had kind of that like looked through like a soap opera lens, like ultra bright thing, it might, not have made as much sense. But because it's a prequel, that's kind of a cool thing that they did. Is it perfect? No. Is some of the sappy love story-ish dialogue some of the worst things I've ever seen put to film? Yes, but you gotta give it to the look. Darth Maul, incredible. The lightsaber duels and fights and space stuff, all really goddamn cool. Everything involving the Gungans, the technology was awesome for the time, I gotta say that. And it still kind of holds up and looks cool. Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan is amazing. I can't wait to get to see him as Obi-Wan again. I think that's really goddamn cool. The pod race sequence, it's great. In 3D, it's even more great. There's a lot that can be said nasty, but, Phantom Menace is still a lot of fun of a film. Attack of the Clones. I really, really like the bookends to this movie. Attack of the Clones has some good intro stuff, and Attack of the Clones has an awesome third act. That fight, that Ray Harryhausen style fight at Count Dooku's place, the giant war that they've now fleshed out in Clone Wars TV shows and everything so much more, is incredibly rich and amazing filmmaking. And we give Rogue One the credit for being filmed kind of like a World War II movie, which it was. But man, these scenes in Attack of the Clones being fully digitized had some amazing Black Hawk Down style shaky cam work that really added to it. It's just a shame about the middle of the movie, but man, did that have some really cool stuff in it. I still can't deal with Yoda going full Jedi. It is cool for memes and stuff to see Yoda like that, but I can never see him that way. It still looked really cool. It's just too much for me. And getting to see, what's his name? Count Dooku there, Christopher Lee in the Star Wars universe is just awesome. Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is mostly a good film. Revenge of the Sith has a lot of cool backstory and world building and stuff being done. It kind of would have been great if the first two movies were kind of one film, and then Revenge of the Sith got two films to flesh out, because Revenge of the Sith is rich with stuff. It just feels that we get to angry Vader, angsty guy a little bit too quick, but I also feel it's, the acting in it is the best of the three. The dialogue still isn't great, but people are really trying. It all gets a little bit too silly, but man, does it have some really cool stuff in it, and it really holds up. I feel like watching that movie into Rogue One and then into A New Hope makes a lot of sense, and it's cool to see. Rogue One. There's been a lot of discourse about Rogue One. I friggin' loved Rogue One. If you don't like Rogue One, that's fine. Who directed it? No idea. Is Gareth Edwards' name on it? Yes. Do I think that he's part of the reason why the movie works? Yes. I think Gareth Edwards makes a cool visual palette of a movie. His Godzilla film I love, even though very similarly to Rogue One, it has a slow burn thing to it. That maybe it's a little bit too slow of a slow burn when your story and characters aren't as interesting. But that's not the case with Rogue One. I love these characters. The only problem is for it to really work, they can't exist after the movie, and that's really what they did. I give Disney credit for producing a film where almost the whole core cast dies. it was really cool, and I still love it. And that lead up with Vader going full Jason Voorhees to remind you that the Vader that you've seen in the other movies is the more subdued, controlled by the Emperor version of Vader. And here you still had that anger and full out, like, just secret weapon, like Warhammer Astartes thing going on there, just ruining everybody. It was really freaking cool. Love Rogue One. New Hope, it's the first Star Wars. It's clunky. They were trying things out, all for the first time. Some of these actors had never acted before, but man, do I love it. And it's right up there with some of the best experiences of my life was seeing that movie for the first time. Empire Strikes Back, to go from A New Hope to something so goddamn dark and bleak, I give you a lot of credit. The color palette is different. It's as much of a strange juxtaposition between Force Awakens and Last Jedi, and I know that's what they were going for. But Empire delivers, and there is still not a Star Wars film that's as good as it. Return of the Jedi is silly, but again, it's why I love Star Wars. Star Wars can be dark, and Star Wars can be silly. A lot of people give it a lot of credit for it, a lot of discredit for its silliness and its childishness, but I love the inventiveness. And when I was a kid, the Moon of Endor was what I remembered with Star Wars. The play sets, the thinking about, what went down when you played with Star Wars characters, and all the advertising. It was all Endor based. And it was really goddamn cool, man. And yeah. Then, we get... Oh, I forgot to mix it in there. I forget where it would have taken place before these. Sorry. There's also Solo. Solo, I think... Well, until Rise of Skywalker, Solo got more crap than I think it fittingly deserved. I love Solo. Solo's a mess. Do I wish Chris Miller and Phil Lord could have made it? Yes, I do. Do I think some of the stuff that they put in there that seems a little bit hokey in context because the movie took itself more seriously probably wouldn't have worked? Yeah, so it probably makes sense why they were removed, but still, I love the film they ended up with. It's really cool that Ron Howard got to make a Star Wars movie. I think that's awesome. I love Lando in it. I love the guy they hired to be Han Solo. He makes it his own. Instead of it being a caricature of Harrison Ford, he's playing Han Solo, and a guy that's learning how to become Han Solo, and I think that's really cool. I love that the third act of the movie just goes full-on, like, anime craziness with the bad guy and the villains and the fights. I love Woody Harrelson being Star Wars canon. I love all of the characters in this damn thing. Is it kind of meaningless in the grand scheme of things? Sure. But do I like it? Yeah. So there's that. Now we get to the new trilogy, The Force Awakens. It's Avengers level for me. Is it as good of a movie as the Avengers? I mean, has time really been fair to anything Joss Whedon has made? The Avengers was still more holy, wow, you're never going to be able to pull this off, I can't believe it. The Force Awakens had a similar thing. We had a lot of negative discourse to make up for. And being in a theater, seeing The Force Awakens play out was just a joy. Does it all fully work? No. But seeing Harrison Ford actually show up for a movie again, this was the beginning of, oh shit, Harrison Ford could be there. Seeing that first Han Solo smirk on his face in the movie, hearing the interplay between the characters, getting introduced to Rey and Finn and Poe and BB-8 and all of these different people and not really knowing where their story is going to go yet was just exciting, and nothing that can come after it can take away the excitement contained in that one film. Leave all the mystery boxing shit out of it because that was pointless anyway. The Last Jedi. It's perfect, or damn near perfect. Canto Bight is not perfect, so whatever percentage of the movie that takes in, but Canto Bight is very important to the ending shot of the movie. What more can I say? This is Star Wars' high art, high drama. It's just really friggin' wonderfully done, and a good follow-up to what came before it, in my opinion. A lot of people had said, the whole point of The Last Jedi was just to shit on everything J.J. Abrams did before. This is a weird cinematic balancing act, like a rubber band being pulled or a spring being pulled back and forth. I feel, unfortunately, that with the retcons that Rise of Skywalker tried to do after this one, it unfortunately made it more glaringly different, rather than if they had continued in tone to something from this. So it's kind of a bummer that happened, because the book-ending movie could have all gelled it together a little bit better. But on its own, The Last Jedi is the quintessential new era Star Wars film. Is it as fun to watch as The Force Awakens? Fuck no. It's challenging. It's difficult. There's a lot more quiet scenes, but I love that for it. It's a beautiful film. One of the most different looking, while still being wholly a Star Wars films. And I love nearly everything about it. And Kelly Marie Tran is great. And I'd love to see Rose Tico in more Star Wars things, and I hope we get to, because one of my biggest problems with The Rise of Skywalker is what they did with her, but we're not here to talk about problems. So let's go into The Rise of Skywalker. Now, I want to hit a very important point. I had made a comment before The Rise of Skywalker came out that if they told us who Rey's parents were in this film, and her parents were anything more than nobodies, I'd be pissed off. They're still kind of nobodies, but they also happen to be related to Palpatine. So, yeah, I was pretty freaking angry. I called it from the trailers. Didn't want it to be. But you know what? I gotta say, I give every movie I go into a chance, and the movie on its own, because every movie is both a standalone thing and a thing coming from it. Kind of like, the Matrix movies. Even though Reloaded and Revolutions were filmed at the same time, I look at them as different films, and Reloaded is a goddamn blast of an action movie, but it's just not good. And Revolutions, I love a lot of like the weird theorization and stuff going on there, and the storyline stuff, and showing more of what the real world looks like in the action and everything. But they're both not perfect, but they're also standalone films. So Rise of Skywalker is a standalone film, and The Last Jedi not come before it. I really love it. It's a hell of a fun Star Wars movie. Does all of it work? No. Does the Palpatine stuff feel kind of shoehorned in? Yes, it does. But is it awesome? I enjoy it. It's unfortunately exactly what you'd expect from a fully Disneyfied Star Wars film. It reminds me of a Pirates of the Caribbean sequel. It's trying to please everybody. It succeeds for me 70 to 80% of the time, and it feels like a Star Wars film. And not that The Last Jedi doesn't, but The Last Jedi feels like a movie that is good and a Star Wars film, but also almost in spite of it being a Star Wars film, where this one just fits like a nice glove. It's like, look, happiness. This is Star Wars all the way. It's full J.J. Abrams on copycat mode. But God, you know what? I'll say it today, and I said it, last night in a pre-May the 4th tweet. It's got a lot wrong with it, a lot of it involving Rose Tico, a lot of it involving retconning what they did with a lot of the characters that really makes me angry. But if you lift that scene from the end of The Last Jedi of that little kid holding the broom into the sky after the events that happened in The Last Jedi, the kid on Canto Bight, and re-edit it and smack it at the end of the events of this film, I think it makes for a damn good trilogy just by moving that one bit. That felt like a trilogy ending bit. And of course, if you're coming in to do a movie and you come up with that mode, nothing in Star Wars is going to be as awesome as that moment after it. But it would have been really nice if you're going to end that way to have a movie that kind of builds off of that, and they didn't. There's some winks to it, but at the end of the day, it would move that little bit, and I think it elevates the movie a lot more. So that's my positive things to say about Star Wars on May the 4th. There's a lot more. I know there's a lot of negative things too, but why? What's the point? People are dying all around us. We're locked in our houses. Let's talk about friggin' positive things for a little bit. And you know what? If you don't have anything positive to say about Star Wars, go talk about something else. Find the things that make you happy. Find the things you're enthusiastic about. That's what I got to say today. This has been an extra long Chippa in the third person. I'll see you guys on the other side. May the Force be with you. May the 4th be with you. Bye.